Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. And we've got a big show to talk about tonight. We've got plenty to discuss, plenty of things going on in the world of Manchester United, even though it's the international break. We've got transfers to talk about, guys. Plenty of reports coming out. We're going to talk a little bit about Antony, as you can see down below. Is there the potential to extend his loan, and will it be a good thing for Manchester United? We're going to talk as well about United being linked with Bournemouth's Antony Semenyo. We're also going to talk about another transfer window potentially chasing Jared Brantwaite of Everton. We'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, we're going to have to talk about Rasmus Højlund. David Ornstein has been speaking about a potential move away from Manchester United. So we'll talk a little bit about that and what it might mean, and could there be somebody coming in the opposite direction. But before we do all of that, guys, please do smash a like on the video. Helps the channel out an awful lot, like you wouldn't believe. Smash that like button. Let's try get to 20 likes before we even get started. Do hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel as well, on the road to 14,000 subscribers. And of course, as always, get your comments into the comment section. But we're going to start, guys, first and foremost with the main man, the man who's tearing it up. One of the hottest players in Europe at the moment, supposedly, if opposition fans were to be believed. That is Antony. And look, we know he's on loan at Real Betis at the moment. And there has been some reports coming out from Spain today suggesting that they might want to extend his loan deal. And look, it's coming out, obviously. This is a pretty reliable source within, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, within Spain, but has been pretty much on the ball with a lot of the Spanish reports coming out around Manchester United in the past few weeks. And it says that Real Betis and Manchester United are in talks over Antony's future. Real Betis want to keep the winger, and Antony has expressed his desire to continue his career in La Liga. And look, I mean, first and foremost, Antony at Manchester United can never happen again. You know, he will probably go down as one of the worst transfers in Manchester United's history. You know, he's certainly up there. He really, really is. And, you know, I think it was just bad business. And it goes to show that, I suppose, the type of business the old regime was capable of doing. And, you know, again, he's gone to Real Betis. He's done quite well for himself. He's scoring some goals. He's getting assists. You know, and he's putting in some good performances. He's got some good man-of-the-match performances as well. And look, I do believe that the man-of-the-match over there is voted by the fans as well. So you can't be overly reliant on it. But again, look, it does mean that he is impressing in some way, shape or form over there. Now, Antony staying at Real Betis is a good thing for Manchester United. However, how do we feel about a loan extension? And for me personally, an extension to Antony's loan is not in the best interest of Manchester United. It really, really isn't. I think that if we're talking about Antony, you know, not being at Manchester United next season, then I think we've got to talk about it being on a permanent basis. I mean, you do not want... Real Betis clearly want Antony to stay, and they really like him, and they want him to be part of the, you know, the future of their club, and that's great from a Manchester United standpoint. But how long do you need to make up your mind? You know, and look, again, I think we're talking potentially about, you know, Real Betis playing hardball here and saying, look, we'd be happy to take him, and, you know, we want him to stay, but we're probably not willing to match your price tag. Now, I don't know what that price tag is going to be. I'm sure there is an option there to buy from Real Betis. I'm sure it's included in the loan deal. And I'm sure they're not obligated to do it. But the one thing I would say is that if they don't take up that option, I mean, the more goals he scores between now and the end of the season is just perfect for us. You know, let him keep getting man of the matches. Let him keep tearing it up, getting assists, getting goals, so on and so forth, because it will benefit us in the long run. There will be a team that will pick him up. Now, United maybe might have to tailor their I suppose, price tag of him and what they could realistically get. It's going to be a loss regardless of what we get. But I think Antony moving away from Manchester United in the summer, it's got to be on a permanent deal. I mean, going on loan for 18 months just doesn't do any benefit to Manchester United. He's doing really well at the moment. And hopefully that will continue between now and the end of the season. And that's when you've got to cash in. If he gets another 12 months over there on loan, and all of a sudden he puts in has a poor season, who's going to be wanting him then? So I think we've got to judge it between now and the end of the season. I mean, if he goes between now and the end of the season and puts in absolute stinkers and Real Betis still want him, then all right, maybe, we can work on it from there. But I think as it stands, as we see here, Real Betis are in talks with Manchester United at the moment. They do want to keep him, and he has expressed his desire to stay, which is good from a Manchester United standpoint. It really, really is. Who have we got in the chat? Let's see. The members are in. Dylan is there. Ben is in. Chris is there as well. Good to see everybody. Jonathan is there as well. He said should be a straight up sell instead of extending the loan. I agree 100%. Jonathan, absolutely agree. Chris also says sell him. They will string it along as long as possible. They don't have money. Maybe loan and cover full wages is another fee. Yeah, well, basically that's what a lot of the negotiations that's going on at the moment are focusing around. Real Betis to take him on for another year. They have offered to cover a higher percentage of his wages. Now, I think Real Betis at the moment are covering between, is it 84 or 86% of his wages? So, I mean, if they're going to take on more of that, then you would expect it to be 100% covered next year. And if they're looking for Antony for another 12 months, and it's going to be technically an 18-month loan deal, then they really should be. Why should we be paying any of his wages to pay for another to play for another club? But again, I reiterate the fact that he would have a year less on his contract, which means he would technically go for cheaper. And then you're also walking the tightrope of, is he going to have a good season next year? He's having a good one at the moment. So, why not try and cash in as quickly as possible now? Owen says, hey Jack, are you watching the Ireland game? Are they playing tonight? I'm not. If they are playing tonight, I am not watching them. I don't know if they are playing tonight. Please tell me they're not playing tonight. I don't think they are. No, I don't think they are. They are. They are. We're winning 2-1. I'll put on here in the background. I completely forgot about it. I've been so busy setting up all of these overlays before the news show that I just completely forgot about. Right, let's get the Ireland game on here in the background while I'm speaking to you. But yeah, I mean, look, Antony to Real Betis, I think it has to be a permanent deal. And even if it's not Real Betis, the fact that he is potentially, having a very good season for himself away from Manchester United, can only be a positive for United when we're trying to get rid of him in the summer. And again, look, I've mentioned an awful lot about players leaving Manchester United, and we've seen the opposition fans, haven't we, saying it's, United destroying players and, players leaving Manchester United and absolutely ripping it up. But an awful lot of these, I suppose, criticisms towards United, there's been a lot better players than Antony that have come and gone at Manchester United and have not fulfilled, what they could potentially fulfill. And, a lot of it is down to the expectation and the weight on your shoulders and having to perform week in, week out and having the criticism to go along with it. And a big thing as well, and we mentioned it the other night, is the physicality of the Premier League. You do not get a second to breathe in the Premier League. It's so physical. You're getting elbowed, you're getting shoulders, you're getting stood on. Antony all of a sudden goes to Real Betis and he's going, I've loads of room here. Let me take a shot. Let me ping a 60-yard ball for a guy to run in and score, and these types of things. And look, it's always going to be the case. It's always going to be the case. And I think that does have to be taken into consideration as well, because Antony, we know Antony is not good enough. He's not good enough. He really isn't. And I think if we can move him on and get a permanent transfer fee in, I think, again, what are we talking here? Could we get 20 million for him? 20, 30 million, depending on how he gets on between now and the end of the season? Maybe so. But I think, if we could get 20 million now I would take it. I would take it. I would definitely take it. Let's see what the chat is saying here. Let's see what the members are saying. Not hire full wages and give us a fee. Absolutely. Has to be an obligation to buy after another year. I wouldn't even entertain another year, Chris, to be honest with you. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't entertain another year. I think, I think the ship has sailed on that. I think we've got to stand firm. And I think we probably will stand firm. He's not in our plans. Sending him on loan doesn't benefit us. And if he's performing between now and the end of the season, then let's move him on, how did your game go last night, says Chris? We won 1-0. We scored with the last kick of the game. I pulled my hamstring, so I came off about 5 minutes into the second half. Still trying to shake off the cobwebs of not playing in the last 9 months, but enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm enjoying back playing. It's only night owls pub football, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. Sancho was shit after he left, says Dylan. There you go, he was. But again, I reiterate the fact that he's still in the Premier League, Dylan, and that nearly doubles down on what I've been saying there. He went to Germany, to the Bundesliga, last year on loan and done quite well because, again, the speed, the physicality, it's not up to the same level as the Premier League. It really, really isn't. What else are people saying here? Highland should say, says Miguel. We'll get on to Highland in a few minutes as well. We will. Now, guys, I want to move it on and I want to talk a little bit about Semenyo. Manchester United have been linked with Bournemouth's Semenyo in the past 24 hours or so. And some of the reports coming out are suggesting that Manchester United have already started negotiations with them. It's coming from africafootball.com via United Paper. So again, look, let's as we do, pinch of salt, but it does say Manchester United have started negotiations to sign Bournemouth's Antoine Semenyo as per his agent. United are ready to offer 40 million, but Bournemouth want 50. Okay. Now look, again, this is a kind of a nice segue because it goes back to what we were saying initially about, the physicality, the pace, I suppose the difficulty of playing in the Premier League. And Semenyo is playing in the Premier League and he is Premier League proven. He's playing with quite a good team. 32 games played this season. He's got 9 goals and 5 assists. How is Semenyo going to be played if he is brought in? Is he going to be brought in as a right winger? That's, naturally where he plays. Or is this another option for Ruben Amorim to bring in another right wing back? Is he looking at these attacking style of players and looking to bring them in and mould them to what he wants in terms of a right wing back? And, very, very interesting to see whether that may be the case. And it's very interesting to see whether we actually go out and sign a right wing back in the summer, regardless, because we know that, and we've read reports over the last few days that Ahmad potentially is on the radar for Ruben Amorim as being his next right wing back, and we spoke about it on the podcast last night with Chris and Ben. And we all kind of came to the agreement that we have no issue with Ahmad playing as right wing back, but not really permanently. He can do a really good job there for us. Absolutely, he can. But I think we're all in agreement that he's probably more beneficial to us further up the field. Now, when we're talking about a right wing back, I have the feeling that Antony will probably be used as a wing back more so than a number 10 in the future. Because if you look at it, and basically you look at the players that are available to us, and even next season, let's say, for example, Christian Eriksen leaves, so that's a number 10 gone. We already know Joshua Zirkzee is a number 10. He's a self-proclaimed 9.5. And I think that's a bit of a stretch even, to be honest. We've seen how he's been playing the last few games for Manchester United. He's been playing as a number 10. His link-up play is really good. His first touch is good. He's strong. He's physical. I think he absolutely is a number 10 going forward. We've seen Garnacho do really well in that position the last few games and really seems to be settling into that right side number 10 role. Now, Bruno Fernandes can also play there. We've also got a Mason Mount who's coming back. And Mason Mount is a very, very hot topic in relation to what we may do in the summer transfer window in regards to that number 10 role, because Ruben Amorim speaks so highly of him. Just, says, I love Mason Mount, fantastic footballer, love what he's all about, so on and so forth. And he's going to come back. And I mean, even if we are talking about getting rid of Mason Mount in the summer, what's the realistic chance of us actually selling him? He's come to Manchester United for 60 million and he hasn't played. Who's going to want to buy him? I think it's probably more realistic that Mason Mount stays at Manchester United this summer, and continues next season with us. So if we're talking about all of these players being available for the number 10 roles, Mazraoui even has played in the number 10 role. I think it's probably more likely that we see Ahmad play as a right wing back. Now, again, are you talking about maybe Semenyo as a number 10? Again, it's very specific when we're talking about Ruben Amorim and how he plays and how Manchester United are playing, because we play 2 6s and we play 2 10s and we play narrow, Chris has said an awful lot in the lives and on the match reactions about Garnacho, drifting out too wide when he's on the left. And over the last few games, he has looked like he's playing a lot more narrow when he's on the right-hand side. And he got a goal from that position against Leicester the other night. So it's going to be interesting to see. But look, I mean, Semenyo, regardless of what position he's coming in, he is a very good footballer. It has to be said. He is 25 years of age. So he's not, he's not at the kind of age bracket that, United have been buying recently, 21, 22 years of age. He does have more experience. And, we're talking about 9 goals and 5 assists in a Bournemouth team that, is up there. And, there is a chance that Bournemouth are in Europe next year and we're not. So again, we do have to taper expectations as well. We really, really do. But he is the type of signing that, seems to be coming a bit more familiar to the likes of Ineos and the new structures that have been put in place, and the type of player that we're looking to go for now in the future, more so than the big marquee names and so on and so forth. But it's going to be interesting to see. Let me know what you guys think. Let's get down through and see what you're saying about Semenyo. Oshin is in. He says, I'd see a doctor if you've got Semenyo. That shit can be deadly. These names were never designed for a Kilkenny accent. Alright, okay, I get it. I hope we don't sign him then, because it means I'm going to have to say his name an awful lot more. Dylan says, no way 50 million for Semenyo, 40 or nothing. If that's the case, would love a fella like Mbuemo. Oshin says, our priority in the summer needs to be a striker. Everything else is a bonus, in my opinion. I agree. I absolutely agree. And, Oshin makes a very good point there. We're talking about the lack of goals we're scoring this season. And we can see the improvements in what Ruben Amorim is trying to do over the last few weeks. And you can look at it in a negative or a positive. How many games have we lost how many games have we won in the last 14 games, for example? And there might not be an awful lot. But if you look at it in the other way around, you can spin it and put it into a positive. We've only lost 2 games in the last 14. So clearly something is changing, and Ruben Amorim is improving this squad. I mean, if we go through it, defensively we've looked really good over the last few games. De Ligt has been fantastic. Yaro has played well when he's been on. Aidan Heaven has been playing fantastic. Mazraoui is just doing his normal thing. Dorgu has looked really, really good. Go into midfield. Casemiro over the last few games has looked really, really good. Bruno has got back to the goal scoring and assists that we were used to under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You're talking about Garnacho looking really dangerous on that right-hand side now. Highland, thank God, has scored. you're even talking about the last couple of games, the low actually looking a little bit better on the, as a wing back and putting in crosses, and, he's got a goal and a couple of assists in the last few games. So whatever Ruben Amorim is doing with the squad, it is starting to take shape a little bit. So again, I agree with what Oisín is saying there. The biggest concern is putting the ball in the net, and that all comes down to, getting a striker to do that. And if we can get a striker to do that, I don't think there's a massive amount of fixing that's needed after that, but you could always improve the squad. You can always, improve specific areas and get better players in specific areas, and that may be the case. But if we get a proven goal scorer, I would like to see a right wing back come in, and we're probably going to look at a left centre back again, which we'll get onto in a moment. If we got a striker, left centre back, and a central midfielder, and it all depends whether Casemiro stays or goes. I think we'll probably go for a central midfielder. I think if we could get them three, I think anything above that is a bonus for me as well. Dylan says, if Ahmad's performing great at right wing back, keep him there. He's miles better than Delo. Ahmad can actually play across. Well, my point being there as well is that, and we mentioned it again on the podcast last night, go check it out, link is in the description. We mentioned that if you have Ahmad on as right wing back, you've got Bruno as the right number 6, you've got Garnacho as the right number 10, and you've got Victor Gyökeres as our number 9. I mean, that's a pretty strong one side of a team. You go to the other side, okay? Let's talk Dorgu, right, as a wing back. Let's talk about Aidan Heaven as the left-sided centre-back, or Lisandro Martinez when he comes back. Then you talk about, maybe a Joshua Zirkzee or a Bruno Fernandes if he's up in that role, or even a Mason Mount, whatever the case may be. I mean, all of a sudden, you look at a team that has a lot of balance and a lot of quality in it. I think they just need to get to learn Ruben Amorim's system. I think that's what we're talking about more than anything else. And I think if we can do that, I think we'll be miles better off. I genuinely do. Mount has no value, says Chris. Exactly. He has no value because he hasn't played enough to garnish some value. And that's the concern that we have. And I think that's the main reason why we won't see him move on. I would like probably to see him move on. I think if we could get, I mean, you're talking about if you got 30 to 40 million for Mount, you're getting it basically on his name alone because he hasn't played for us enough to represent that kind of figure. He just doesn't, Oisín says, if Mount comes back before the end of the season, stats fit and lights the place up, I'll keep him happily. But until then, I think he needs to be in the exit conversation. I agree. He does have to be in the exit conversation. And a lot can change over a couple of games. It really can. I mean, Ruben Amorim comes in. Harry Maguire starts playing in a back three for Manchester United for the first time ever at club level. And we know how good he was doing it at England. And all of a sudden people went, sell Harry Maguire to maybe extend his contract, give him that extra year, you know what I mean? Trigger that extra. So that's what we're talking about here. So, I mean, if Mason Mount can come back relatively soon, it looks like he was on the bench for the Leicester game. If he comes back after the international break and starts playing minutes and starts doing well, gets assists, maybe chips in with a few goals, I'm all for it. And the one thing I would say, and we spoke about this an awful lot at the start of this season when Mason Mount was playing, the intensity levels in terms of the high press that he gives, he triggers that press from the front, is really, really good. And it's the type of energy that Ruben Amorim likes to have in his team. And I think he doesn't like Mason Mount not only for his he likes Mason Mount not only for his creativity, but because of that high intensity pressing he gives you from the forward line. So yeah, I agree with what Oisín is saying there. If Mount comes back, don't see him being more than a backup because we can't afford another injury. Chris says Semenyo is a good player, interesting fit. He splits pens with Clivert, okay? You had me until you said Delo, says Oshin. Well, I mean, I'm just going off of, what we've seen. Delo, I think, has a goal and 2 assists in the last 3 games. I mean, keep that up for a season. Nobody will give out about you. It's just about consistency. You know what I mean? Back end has started to take shape. What, mine? I'm only back in the gym a week, Chris. Relax. The transfer window needs to be addressed. Sorry. Chris says, Semenyo is a player that can find the striker and also score on his own. Our 10s are average. Our 10s are average. Yeah, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And these are the types of players that you want to be going out and trying to identify. And I'm all for it. Delo has also dribbled the ball out of play. He has. Well, look, if Delo dribbles the ball out of play 2 or 3 times in a game but gets a goal and an assist every 2 games, I'm all for it. Dylan says, could we do something with Chelsea the way they don't want Sancho? We agree to take Sancho back if they take Mount. Absolutely not. I would rather have 7 Mason Mounts than Jadon Sancho. No way. I do not want that lad anywhere near our club again. High intensity pressing for 5 minutes into that's lousy. Clip that shit up, says Oshin. We'll clip it up if you want. I don't mind. Anyway, right. Let's move on. And let's talk a little bit about centre back. Okay, because we need to talk a little bit about Branthwaite. Okay, because there has been, and again, I can see Chris going like that already because, we obviously spoke about him last night, and he's going to split opinions. He's absolutely going to split opinions. He really, really is. But we'll jump in and get to it. Smash a like on the video, guys, if you haven't done so already. Do hit that like button. It helps us out an awful lot. And like I said, hit subscribe if you're new as well. Jared Branthwaite. Okay, now again, pinch of salt on this one because it is coming from The Sun. However, there are some reports coming out suggesting that Manchester United are going to go in for him again, okay? The Sun is saying that Manchester United are ready to meet Jared Branthwaite's £50 million plus valuation this summer. United would have to qualify for the Champions League to sign him, as the player is determined to join a side playing in the competition. Branthwaite is ready to consider the move. United believe they can get the deal done. Now, there's a few things I want to pick out of this. And again, it's The Sun, so, I'm not going to get too worked up about it. If this was coming from The Times or from The Athletic, I would be a lot more towards Branthwaite. But it's The Sun, so we've got to be, we've got to be a little bit level-headed here because we know they're not. First and foremost, 50 million plus, no way. Again, they were looking for 70 last year, and, what has he done this season that would potentially, 70 million was so far out of the stratosphere last year that no one was even going to balk at it. They really weren't. And the Manchester United of old probably would have. They probably would have gone, the whole Harry Maguire kind of thing, 70 million. We didn't really plan on anyone else other than you. 65? No, 70. All right, go on. Jesus. But United didn't go out and buy another left-sided centre-back. We didn't do it, okay? And I think when you look back at, let's take Liverpool as a good example here, under Jurgen Klopp for that maybe 7 or 8 years, and probably since the new ownership has been there, they haven't panic buy. They never panic buy, in fairness to them. They go out and they try and sign a player. I think, was it Van Dijk they were looking at, and they didn't get him because the price wasn't right, and they waited 12 months or 6 months or whatever the case may be, and eventually got him. And I think they've probably done the same with Alisson as well. And United done that last summer with Branthwaite. Man United were heavily linked to Branthwaite and really interested in him. And Everton said 70 million. United went, get the fuck. You know what I mean? Absolutely no way. And Everton wouldn't budge. So United went, okay, we'll wait. And I think the the benefits of waiting like that is that come the January transfer window, what happened? We got Aidan Heaven for 1 million. I mean, Aidan Heaven already looks up there with as good as the likes of Jared Brantwaite. Now, Jared Brantwaite has more experience playing in the Premier League and, in big games and so on and so forth. But Aidan Heaven looks like, he looks like the JJ Okocha of defender. Remember how just, when he played with Bolton, he just looked good and confident and smooth and class, I think Aidan Heaven is that, you know what I mean? So, again, trying to get back and stay on point here is that I think basically with the likes of Jared Brantwaite, 50 million, I mean, only for David Moyes, they would have been relegated this season. I'm convinced with that. And Jared Brantwaite had a big part to play in that, playing centre-back and playing an awful lot of games. Again, Everton are probably going to look for in and around that, but I think 50 million, I don't think anybody will meet that valuation, and I hope we don't. I like Jared Brantwaite. I think he's a very good footballer, and I think he would fit in really well at Manchester United. He's strong, he's physical, he's tall, good in the air, he's able to play football, he's able to play out from the back. He might not do it as well as maybe, Alessandro Martinez or even in Aidan Heaven, I don't know, but, the one concern, and I think it was Chris that mentioned it on the podcast last night, was will he go out and press the way we've seen, De Ligt the last few weeks and Aidan Heaven the last few weeks, literally follow, an opposition attacker back into their own half and go all the way maybe to the edge of the opposition's box to close down the man and follow the man that they're still, and that's what Ruben Amorim wants. Is Jared Brantwaite that type of player? I'm not 100% sure. And we do have to take into account here as well is that there are better players out there for 50 million, and we spoke, and again, look, Chris is just after mentioning it, Inacio for around 40 million is probably a better footballer than Jared Brantwaite. He's better at playing the style of football that Ruben Amorim likes to play because he played for him before at Sporting. So, look, again, this is just trying to get her, I suppose, talk about the fact that Manchester United are more than likely going to go in to the transfer market and look for another left-sided centre-back. I genuinely believe it in the summer because Lisandro Martinez is going to be out till probably the new year, which is crazy to think when, it feels like we've only started 2025, even though we're over a quarter of the way through it, nearly a quarter of the way through it already. But we more than likely are going to go out and get a left-sided centre-back but the one thing I would say is that and the one, I was devastated when Martinez got injured, and again when Heaven got injured as well. It's never good to see, but you do have to say that United have depth in defence, and we spoke about this an awful lot over the last few months. Maguire, De Ligt, Yoro, Martinez, Heaven, all players. I don't know if Johnny Evans, all players that. The great Johnny Evans. All players that are good footballers, can play the system and so on and so forth. Now, we're talking about Evans is out, Maguire is out, Heaven is out, Martinez is out. And we're still okay. And we're okay because Mazraoui can play there, But it's getting thin. Now, if we're going to... And Lindelof, again, sorry, I forgot about Lindelof. Now, Lindelof is going to move on in the summer. Are we going to move on another centre-back as well? If a left-sided centre-back comes in, do you give Harry Maguire, an extension to his contract? There's a lot of talk suggesting that United are going to offer him a new deal. But again, I'll go back to what I've said last night, that I think Maguire, if he is given a new deal, will be given one primarily to play as one of the central role in the back four, or in the back three, and maybe be the backup to De Ligt going forward. If you're talking about De Ligt in the middle, Yoro on the right, Aidan Heaven on the left, or, even, Yoro on the right, Martinez on the left, whatever the case may be, all of a sudden you've got a really, really good energetic, high-pressing back three that can play out from the back, that are, physical, young, determined and hungry to win games. And yeah, I'm all for it. I really, really am, I have to say. Let's see what you guys are thinking here in the chat. Let me see. Chris says, not again. Oshin says, it's that time of year again. Brantwaite wants a pay rise at Everton. To be honest with you, Oshin, I know where you're coming from, and usually that is the case. I think he wants out. I think he has enough of Everton now at the moment. And I think he did want to move last summer, but he wasn't going to force a move. And I think this summer is going to be different. And I think Everton know that. Everton said, we want to keep you for another year last summer. And that's why they put the high price tag on his head. You know what I mean? Brantwaite is the defensive transfer version of De Jong. 50 million jog on, says Ben. 50 million for a four-choice centre-back, says Oshin. Yeah, it's crazy. It really is crazy. And I don't think United would go anywhere near that, to be quite honest with you. Even at 20 million, it's 19 million too much. Look at heaven, says Oshin. I mean, there you go. And they're the kind of deals you just love to see. And it just goes to show how good that Aiden Heaven deal was. I keep calling him Adrian Heaven. I don't know why. But yeah, maybe that's something that's just going to stick forever. But yeah, Aiden Heaven, that's a scandalous challenge on Evan Ferguson. Sorry, I have the Ireland-Bulgaria game on. There's 30 seconds to go on. Ireland are 2-1 up. Yeah, it just goes to show how good the Aiden Heaven transfer was for 1 million. Just absolutely fantastic. Dylan says, we need players like we got last year. Ugarte, Delict, Mazraoui, Yoro, Xerxes all came in and wanted to play in the Europa League. That's what we need to do this year as well. Well, that all depends. Dylan, we could very well be in the Champions League next year if we win the Europa League. It's a big ask, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. And if we continue to improve the way we have been over the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks, I think we've got a good chance. I do. I think we've got a good chance. Let me see. How long have we been going here? 34 minutes. Gosh, we're flying. I've still got so much to get through. Let me see. Chris says, again, it's about the badge and not what the competition we are playing in. Oshin says, what big names have Everton played in, or what big games have Everton played in recently? Relegation, 6 points. Yeah, I'm talking the Merseyside derby and so on and so forth. Aiden must be worth 60 million, says Ben then. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, Inacio is set to cost 40 million, says Chris. I'd be going all out for him, to be quite honest with you. Ben says Inacio is a no-brainer. Dylan says, not saying anything, but bringing managers, former players, has been a recipe for disaster. Look at Ten Hag. And then we have... Yeah, it always happens, though. It always happens, Dylan. I have no problem with bringing in a player if he's good enough and he fits the system. And I think the big difference between now and previous managers is that there's a transfer committee there now. Vivell is the head of recruitment, and he's got, Wilcox there, Barada, so on and so forth, alongside Ruben Amram, identifying players that fit the system. And it's not just Ruben Amram bringing in players like it was Ten Hag or maybe Van Gaal or Jose Mourinho or even Oli. It's more of a collective decision now, and I think that's the big difference. So if we go out and get Inacio and we got Kenda, for example, and whoever else, we signed 2 or 3 players from Sporting, I would be okay with that as long as they fit the system. And everybody is saying, no, this is why we done it, and they fit the system, they're good enough, and having a previous relationship with the manager on top of that, is an added benefit. Don't forget Luke Shaw, says Oshin, the forgotten man. Forget Luke Shaw, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, anyway, guys, want to move it on. And I want to talk about Rasmus Højlund, okay? Rasmus Højlund has been, I suppose, he's been talked about a lot over the last couple of days, it has to be said. And David Ornstein has been speaking about Rasmus Højlund, and he's been given his thoughts on whether he could potentially move away from Manchester United in the summer. And look, the talk has been about a potential move to Napoli. Okay, and we know that we are being linked with a Napoli striker. He might not be there at the moment. He's on loan, and that's Victor Osimhen. And is there the chance of a swap deal for United and Napoli and Highland and Osimhen? So David Ornstein has been speaking about it last night on it. Actually was on just after we finished our live last night. But he says it's certainly an interesting proposition. I'm not sure how realistic it is. Manchester United spent 70 plus on Highland. My presumption is they'll be wanting to build with him, rather than bringing in a much older striker in what would be a complicated deal. Now, he does go on to say, I do expect Osimhen to be on the move, given that Napoli let him go to Galatasaray and the future is really uncertain for him there. United have been linked, but I'm not sure how realistic it is that United would let go of Highland. He is one who would raise some funds, but he would not produce a profit on the book value that he represents. So finally, he says, I think it's more likely that United will raise funds from elsewhere, as attractive a deal as it might sound for transfer lovers. So basically what David Ornstein is saying here, from what I surmise from all of this, is that Manchester United are going to raise funds from selling players other than Rasmus Højlund, and that he will be kept on. And that would lend to the idea, what we've all been speaking about, is that Rasmus Højlund will probably be the backup striker at the start of next season if we do go out and sign somebody like an Osimhen or a Gyökeres or whatever the case may be. And we've spoken, haven't we, about what it potentially may cost. And you're talking about your Gyökereses, your Osimhens, your Seskos, all of these types of players. You're talking about, and of course Osimhen and Gyökeres have got release clauses, and it's in around the 60 million mark. Now, 60 million for a striker of Gyökeres or Osimhen's quality is, I won't say a steal, but it's a good deal. It's, you know, if you're going to get a striker in that's going to guarantee you anywhere between 20 and 30 goals a season for 60 million, if you can get that over every season over a 3 or a 4 year contract, that's good money. That's money well spent, so it's very interesting to see what will actually happen and how the whole striker situation will I suppose unravel at Manchester United this summer. But one thing is for sure is that Manchester United will sign a striker this summer, and I would like it to be Gyökeres. I would like it to be Gyökeres, I have to say. I want it to be him. And I know reports have suggested that we're a little bit probably out of the running, but I don't believe it, to be quite honest with you. Them reports were 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was all based around, Gyökeres wanting Champions League football. And of course, every player wants Champions League football. I've got a feeling that I just think it matches, it suits. I mentioned last year, was it last season or the season before, when we were talking about Harry Kane to Manchester United. I always could envisage Harry Kane in a Manchester United jersey wearing the number 9 or the number 10. I can see it with Gyökeres. I can just see it. And I think, who's more likely to score goals in the Premier League, Osimhen or Gyökeres? I don't think there's a lot between. I would probably lean towards Osimhen, to be quite honest with you. But I've got a bad feeling about Osimhen in terms of how it went at and I know, look, Napoli didn't treat him well. And, that whole social media post that had, some, hints of racism in it, pointed at their own player. And he was absolutely right to not be happy with that. I don't know. It just... I think a player coming in to the dressing room to fit in with the dynamics that are already there, I think Gyökeres is the one. For me, I think Gyökeres is the one. But getting back to Rasmus Højlund, I think it is essential that the pressure is taken off of Rasmus Højlund if he is to stay on at Manchester United and be, that backup striker. He needs to be allowed to play, cameo roles of 20, 25 minutes, maybe start 1 in 3 games, whatever the case may be. And, when you're getting to the latter stages, hopefully, of cup competitions next season, if we're in the Champions League, it's Champions League or nothing really, isn't it? Because we're not really going to get into we could get into maybe the Europa Conference or whatever. I don't know. I'd have to look at the league table, but it's pretty much Champions League or bust. And if you're going to be going to the latter stages of all of these competitions, Rasmus Højlund will play a lot of games, even if he is the backup striker, Now, other reports today have kind of gone against what David Ornstein has said. And look, we know David Ornstein is probably the most reliable, football journalist in the world at the moment, alongside maybe Fabrizio Romano. But Graham Bailey has been speaking as well, and he's been writing about Rasmus Højlund's agent and the fact that his agents are doing work on potential options to leave the club this summer, with Italy seen as a good solution for the former Atalanta striker. And again, look, I mean, like we know he's been at Italy, he's been in Italy before, he's played for Atalanta, he knows the Serie A, he done quite well there, albeit he was a young striker. I think, 9 goals he scored before he came to United. He scored 16 then for us last year, so he is before this season, he was on the upward trajectory. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Højlund, because these reports are coming out very early. And again, David Ornstein is only speaking on a podcast, and he's giving his own personal opinions. He's not basing what he's saying off of, sources that he's been speaking to. Whereas Graham Bailey is writing about it, saying that, Højlund's agents are working on potential moves away. So it is really going to be interesting to see how the whole dynamic works around Højlund and if he leaves. And again, I'll go back to, what we've said in the past. If Højlund leaves, I mean, technically, then we need to sign 2 strikers, don't we? Because if you bring in a Gyökeres or an Osimhen, who's the backup? Xerxes not a number 9. He just isn't, And the last thing you want is a striker coming in, getting injured, and then we're back to playing a false 9 for 6 weeks while our striker comes back to full fitness. You just don't want that to happen. So look, I think Højlund, the more I read into it, the more I think he potentially will stay in the summer. And I'm happy with that, to be quite honest with you. Let's see what people are saying. Did you see Højlund score tonight for Denmark, says Anna? I didn't. I'm delighted to hear that. Absolutely. The more goals he can get, the better. Højlund leaving is probably the best for both sides. I disagree with that, Dylan. Højlund needs to go. We can't have a striker scoring 1 in 22 appearances. I know they go through bad patches, but still he hardly scored in the league last year. Well, he scored 16 goals last year as a 21-year-old. You know what I mean? I think you're being really harsh, to be quite honest with you. And again, I reiterate what I said. Who's going to be the backup if he goes? He can't control the fact that the old regime spent 90 million on him, or 70 plus million on him, and he will be a very expensive backup. But you bring Gyökeres in, for example, and give him a 4-year deal. Rasmus Højlund will be 26 by the time that deal is over, and he'll be coming into his prime. And he's not on huge money as well either, so I don't see a downside to that. Mark says, I think Rasmus deserves another year, but we need another better striker. I agree with all of that, 100%, yeah. Ben says, Højlund should stay in my eyes. Look how much weight he has on his shoulders. This year, at his age, and only striker we have had the majority of the season. Spot on, yeah. Strikers are always a risk, though. Knocking them in for fun in smaller leagues doesn't always translate well. It doesn't, and it is always a big step up. And we spoke, didn't we, at the start of the show about Antony going the opposite way, where it's hard and it's easy when you go to Real Betis. Likewise, when you go the opposite direction, it becomes an awful lot more difficult. When all of a sudden your wife is getting followed by 1.2 million United fans on Instagram, or it's added pressure. You know what I mean? It is added pressure. That's a scandalous challenge. Sorry, they're just showing a replay of the challenge on it. I mean, it's a leg breaker. If his leg is planted in the ground there, he breaks his leg. That's a disgraceful challenge by Minkov. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Ireland won 2-1. Mohammed says, I heard that he signed a gentleman's contract to join United. That's in relation to Gyökeres. I think basically the gentleman's agreement there was, it wasn't between Manchester United and the player. It was between the player and Sporting Lisbon that there was a gentleman's agreement that he wouldn't leave in the January transfer window gone, but that if he did stay until the summer, that his release clause is about 60 million. He'd actually go for slightly less. So I think that's what the gentleman's agreement was there, Mohammed. Oshin says, I'd sell Highland, get Gyökeres. Failing that, we get Watkins and a backup like Calvert-Lewin. If the boys can say Wood and Wilson last night, I can say Calvert-Lewin tonight. Yeah, I think you're all away with the fairies, to be honest with you. Highland can't be a backup. 70 million we paid for him. Be okay if it was. Well, the money doesn't matter. He's already here. We've already spent it. And if having Rasmus Highland as a backup is what's best for the squad going forward, then it doesn't matter. You know, Ineos weren't in charge when we spent that money on him, you know, and, you know, sending him out on loan or whatever the case may be, I think Rasmus Highland would be a better backup than a fucking Wilson or whoever else you want your backup to be. I genuinely believe it. And then you have Chido Obi, who is 17 years of age, can come on and get his cameo appearances, and the pressure, you know, filters down off of him then as well, where he's no longer being relied on as the backup option, you know, and he can learn his trade without more pressure. And that's the way it works. That's the way it should be, you know. We'll also sell Rashford, so might need a cheaper third option. Well, there you go, Chido Obi, in my opinion. All I heard, Ush, was Watkins. The rest is a blur. If Rasmus leaves, Chido can be the back. See, there we go. Chido is 17 years of age. You don't want to be putting the pressure on him to be the second choice, you know? And I think that would be an added benefit, not having to have Chido as, you know, if you know, Gyökeres comes in and he gets injured, then all of a sudden Chido's in the team for, you know, 12 games without getting a rest, and he doesn't score in 9 of them games, and then all of a sudden the media, dickheads in the fan base, are giving out that he's not good enough. You know what I mean? Get a fucking proper striker in, let Rasmus be the backup, where he's able to take the pressure of being the backup, and let Chido Obi have 2 or 3 years where he doesn't have to fulfill any of his fucking potential, and just let him learn. And that's just the ideal scenario for me. You know what I mean? That's the ideal. Anyway, speaking about young players getting time to learn or going straight into the first team, there has been some updates today in relation to Harry Amas and whether he is going to potentially get more game time in the Manchester United first team. And it's Dean Jones has been speaking about it today on Give Me Sport. And obviously there's been, he came on the other night against Leicester, played quite well in fairness. And the report says that Ruben Amorim is considering bringing Harry Amas into his plans sooner than expected after his impressive cameo against Leicester before the international break, and plans to give him more minutes in the upcoming games. And look, I'm all for this, to be quite honest with you. I like Harry Amas, and I think the main reason why we haven't seen him more is down to the fact that, you know, he hasn't filled out yet, you know, and I think that's the main reason. I mean, the talent is there and the quality is there 100%, and we've seen some snippets of him in pre-season, and he did look very good. In fairness to him, he really did. And the one thing I would say about that left side next season, you know, and actually before we talk about next season, if Amas does get a lot more game time between now and the end of the season, he's going to have to grab it with both hands, because you can't forget Diego Leon is coming on the 1st of July, and he's coming as a man-child, you know, that's already built like a brick shithouse. So he's going to be coming in and chomping at the bit to get into this Manchester United side. We've already got Dorgu there, who's absolutely doing fantastic since he signed in the January transfer window. That left side of that left wing back position next season is going to be a highly contested one. But again, I go back to what I've said. Dorgu is probably going to be the number one option at the start of next season. Let's say Diego Leon is the backup option. Who's to say we don't let Harry Amas go out on loan and let him get, you know, a season of real good high quality football? And don't tell me that it's not beneficial, because it is. Look at what happened with Ahmad. You know, Ahmad is a prime example of how well loan players can do and come back and just tear it up, And I think Harry Amas has a good mentality. He looks like a good kid with strong work ethics and so on and so forth. And I do think if he went and played, in the championship, I'd love to see him go and play in the championship, for one of the top teams like a Burnley or they'll all probably get promoted or whoever the case may be. If, say, for example, if Ipswich go down, he plays for Ipswich next season, and wins games and learns what it feels like to win and so on and so forth. I think that would be, a good scenario for him going forward. But again, that all comes down to who takes the opportunity. You look at countless players down through the years who have got their... I mean, Marcus Rashford is probably the prime example. We had three strikers injured at the time? Certainly two anyway. And he was just, right, in you come. Van Gaal brought him in, right, we need a striker. You're a striker, in you come. 3 goals in 2 games. And that was it. He was a millionaire. His whole life was, financially, was set, and he was never going back to the reserves or the youths. And that could be the case with Chido Obi, Sekou Kone, Harry Amas, whoever the case may be. Aidan Heaven is already after doing it. Look, come in, played a few games, 3 games, looks absolutely at peace with being in that Manchester United back 3, and we're going 1 million. Happy days, and you can't beat that. You've got to take your opportunities when they come. You really, really do. I think we'll leave it there. Will we? I do appreciate you watching, guys. If you haven't done so, smash a like on the video. We have started a new podcast, me personally, and I've been talking about doing it. Well, not talking about it. I've been thinking about doing it for the last few weeks. And again, it's a Man United daily podcast. So Monday to Friday, we will have, it's only anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes long. It's a morning podcast. It gives you all of the morning news in relation to Manchester United. Small snippets up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And go check it out if you haven't done so already. Follow. Give a 5-star review as well, and share it if you can. Because I really enjoy doing this morning's one. It's great not having the camera on, and I'm just sitting here sideways with all of the information up on the screen, not having to look at the camera. And just reading it off the screen and speaking, and it's a nice thing to do. So there you go. As you can see over there, Man United Daily. Search it on. The link is in the description of the video anyway. But search it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and go check it out and give it a 5-star review. And as well, the latest episode of the United Community Channel podcast is up as well from today, which is obviously the show we done last night with Chris and Ben. So if you haven't watched that already, go check it out as well, guys. Smash a like in the video. And an hour's show tonight, which is great. Really enjoyed it. Smash a like in the video. Subscribe if you're new. And you know what? I'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy. Have a good evening. Good luck.